So in today's agenda we have what is AWS WAF. We'll understand what exactly Web ACL rules and WCU concepts are. We will understand different kind of WAF rules. Those are managed WAF and custom rules, then rate limit rules, and what are IP sets and regex based rules. Then we'll see about reporting, the different reporting options available on console, or you can deploy a custom WAF dashboard to understand what's going into your account and how to access logs. Then we will understand how you can automate the entire security with AWS WAF. And finally, we will understand the pricing structure of AWS WAF. Let's understand what AWS WAF is. AWS WAF is Web Application Firewall designed to help protect your web applications or APIs on top layer of OSI model, also known as the application layer or L7. So let's quickly see how it looks like on the console. So this is how the console looks like. When you log in, it will show you this default homepage for WAF. You can search the product after logging in the search box on the top and come to this screen. You can see various sub-menu inside AWS WAF. Now this is a common screen for WAF and Shield. We are not going to talk about Shield in detail, but just to let you know, Shield is the managed DDoS protection product from AWS. So under AWS WAF, you have sections like Getting Started, Web ACL, IP Sets, Regex Pattern Sets, Rule Groups, and AWS Marketplace. Now the very first thing is to understand what exactly Web ACL is. So Web ACL you can relate to a set of rules that you are going to use to protect your application. The very first step is to create a Web ACL before you can proceed further. Now you need to select or decide where you are going to use this set of rules or Web ACL. It can be applied to a regional resource like application load balancer, or if you want, you can use it with the global resource like CloudFront. So for this demo, we are going to use CloudFront. Before we create our first rule, let's also understand what other menu icons looks like. So the very first is IP sets. This IP sets allow you to create your own list of IPs or CIDR blocks, where you can create a set of IPs to blacklist or whitelist as per your need. You can create your own IP list by clicking on the Create IP List button. You can give it a name. You can give the IP set name. Like example, I'll give the name as my whitelisted. All right, then give a small optional description. You can select where you need to deploy this IP range or IP list that you are creating here. It can be for global region, or it can be deployed for a regional resource. So for this demo, I'll deploy this under CloudFront, that is our global resource. Then you need to select which version of IP you're going to use here, whether you want to use IPv4 or IPv6. Let's use IPv4 now. These two IP addresses I'm going to whitelist to accessing the content of my web application through WAF. I'll click on Create IP Set. That's done. In one IP set, you can have up to 10,000 IP addresses or CIDR blocks. Let's understand what regex pattern is. This is a functionality where you can write your own regex pattern set and can do certain things matching on the regex. Example, you can create your own regex pattern to match on the presence of certain string, like this is the one I have created. I can use this regex pattern while creating my own rule. We are going to see the usage after a few minutes while I'm creating a rule for you. Now rule groups is a place where you can create your own set of rule and bundle it together. Now AWS Marketplace is a section where AWS partners are allowed to create and sell their own set of rules. Example, if you are trying to buy a rule from F5, you can buy the rule by clicking on this hyperlink mentioned here, like API security rules from F5. The small description will tell you what this rule is meant to do. You have many different vendors listed here. You can select the rules as per your need. Let's go back to the Web ACL section and let's create our first set of rule. Let's click on Create Web ACL. Let's give the name as maybe our channel name, DOM Tutorials Rule Set. Give an optional description. Then it will also create a CloudWatch matrix to monitor activity undergoing this Web ACL. Next step is to add the resource which you want to protect with this newly created Web ACL. You can do it here by clicking on Add AWS Resources. If you have selected CloudFront or Global Deployment, it will show you the list of available CloudFront distributions. If you have selected a regional resource, it will show you items like Application Load Balancer. Let's skip this particular section here and move forward. Click on Next. In this section, it will allow you to add rules into your rule set. Now, you can add managed rules or you can create your own rules from scratch. We are going to see both these sections one by one. Let's add managed rules to the Web ACL that we have created. Now on this screen, you can see list of managed rules available. The very first rule is by AWS. It's called AWS Managed Rules Groups or AMR. There are many sub rules present inside the main rule group. In case you are going with partner rule set, you can select any of these. There are different rule sets available which can be subscribed by going to their marketplace link. For this demo, we are going to use AWS Managed Rule Groups. Inside this rule group, you can see different rules like admin protection, Amazon IP reputation lists, the core rule set, known bad inputs, Linux specific rule set, Windows specific rule sets, WordPress specific rule sets, and likewise. So you know your application better. Based on the application architecture, you can select these rules. The admin protection rules, as the name suggests, it's essentially for blocking the requests which are trying to access your admin URLs. Now, there are two IP reputation lists available from Amazon. One is Amazon IP reputation list and second is anonymous IP list. Amazon IP reputation list is the list of IPs compiled by Amazon by managing their own .com sites, and hence you are actually getting the benefit of their learning. Now, anonymous IP list contains the IP lists of VPNs, hosting providers, Tor exit nodes, proxies, and known bad IPs. These two IP lists are very effective in blocking bot traffic hitting your application. So while we are talking about these rules, let's go ahead and keep on adding some of these rules to our Web ACL. Now you can see that each and every rule has a score mentioned as capacity. Now this is the compute power this individual rule set is going to utilize if you enable them. So let's go ahead and add few more rules to our rule set. I'm going to add core rule set. This is useful for protecting OWASP top 10 attacks like SQL injection and cross-site scripting. Now you can enable few more rules like known bad inputs, and if my application is running on Linux, I will also enable Linux operating system specific rules. What if my application is running on WordPress? So let me enable this WordPress rule as well. While I'm enabling these rules, it's also enabling us a new toggle button saying set rule action to count. Now, when you enable these rules, it can either be enabled in block mode or it can be enabled in count mode. That means if any request is hitting your application and this rule success criteria is met, what you want to do with this, whether you want to block these requests or you just want to alert that this rule got triggered in your logs and in your monitoring system. It's a good practice when you are newly creating a Web ACL, have these rules enabled in count mode. So I'm going to enable all these rules in count mode. Now let's click on add rules. It shows that we have consumed 1275 Web ACL compute units or WCUs. Each and every score of these individual rule sets are listed here. If you can count this, it will show you are consuming 1275 out of 1500 which is allotted to you. Now what if you are about to hit 1500 compute units, WCUs? In that case, reach out to AWS support to see if it can be increased further. Finally, it says default Web ACL action for requests that don't match any rules. That means if a rule is not triggered, what do you want to do with that? So I'm going to allow them because those requests are going to be genuine requests. Leave it as allowed here. Click on next button. It shows you the priority in which these rules are going to get applied. The parsing happens from top to bottom. That means if first rule get applied, it's not going to evaluate second rule after that. So it's a good practice if you are creating your own IP whitelist or IP block list and put it on the top, because you definitely want to block those IP requests or allow those IP requests as per the list you have created. Now these rules can be terminating or non-terminating. If you are enabling allow or deny, these are terminating kind. That means in terminating type of rules, it's going to stop the moment it matches any rule criteria. If it is non-terminating like count mode, it will keep on parsing one after another till it reaches the end. Once you set the priority, click on next. Finally, it shows you it's going to create few CloudWatch matrices for monitoring purposes. If you want, you can rename these CloudWatch matrices. I'm going to leave it as what it's mentioned here. And it shows you how you want to sample these requests. Do you want to enable sampling or you want to disable sampling? I'm going to enable sample requests for monitoring. Click on next. And finally, it shows you a nice summary for what you have done. Finally, create the Web ACL by submitting this button. Our rule is created. Let's go back to our rule and see what's there inside. In the very first screen, it shows you the overview of the rules you have created. It will show you how many hits you are getting, how many rules are getting triggered, how many requests are causing rule triggers. And at the bottom of the screen, you can see sample requests. Now this screen can be customized for a particular time frame. You can select for an hour, 3 hours, 12 hours, 1 day, 3 days, 1 week, or you can select a custom date range as well. In the bottom screen, this shows you almost real-time data, but it's sampled. You are not going to get each and every request's details here. There are 4 tabs mentioned under the Web ACL that I have clicked on. The first one was overview, second is rule. Now in the rule tab, it allows me to modify the rules that I have added. Now when we added these rules, we just added as an umbrella. But inside these rules, there are many sub rules present. Let's see. Let's click on common rule set and click on edit. You can see that it is having huge number of sub rules. Matching on body, matching on header, some LFI, RFI related rules, some generic LFI URI path rules. So as per the need, you can enable or disable these rules. You can also override the rule action. Example, if you have enabled the rule in block mode and you are observing that it's causing some false positive for your end users. In that case, if you want to disable a particular sub rules, you can click that override rules action and it will enable this rule to count mode if the actual rule would have been in block mode. If it is in count mode, if I override this, it's going to enable block mode for this. Now this rule sets seems good to me, but what if I want to add few more rules, some custom rules? So click on this add rule button here and select add my own rule or rule groups. It allows you to match on certain things, like do you want to match on IP set, or do you want to build a rule using rule builder that is available on the dashboard, or if you have your own rule group, you can include here. Now I'm going to use rule builder to create one simple rule. For example, my application has a URL which I don't want public to access it. I'll give it name as admin protection. It is going to be a regular rule, and I'm going to match certain things. You can click on match the statement. You can match on multiple criteria with and or not conditions. Next, you have to select which part of the request you want to inspect. You can match on the originating country, IP addresses, or a request header, query string parameter, all query string parameters, URI path, query string, body, or HTTP method. Let's see if we want to match on a particular path. Now for path, you can define whether you want to exactly match the string or start with a string, ends with a string, contains word, matches pattern from the regex pattern that we just saw a few minutes back. So I'm going to match exactly on a particular URL which says /admin/star. I'm not going to allow someone to access my admin content through internet. You can apply transformations. I'm going to apply everything to lowercase. Click add transformation. And finally, you want to block these requests. And click on add rules. It shows you the priority of the rules. So my newly created rule is present at the bottom of the screen. It's consuming 12 WCUs, which is okay. Click on save. Now let's go ahead and add few more rules. I want to do a rate-based rule for limiting the number of requests hitting particular URL on my application. So what if someone is trying to brute force the login functionality of my application? So you can give the name as rate limit login, and it's going to be a rate based rule. Now you can define the number of requests which can hit your application in 5 minutes of rolling window. It can be as low as 100, it can be as high as 20 millions. So I'm going to put a minimum request of 100 requests allowed for a period of 5 minutes, and I'm going to match on the connecting IP addresses. That means it is going to match on source IP address. If you want to match on a particular header like xforward for, you can select IP header and you can define the name of the header. But for this demo, I'm going to just select source IP address, and then I'm going to block. What if you want to apply this rate limit only to a particular path? Right now it is selected as consider all requests. I'm going to restrict to only match the criteria in the rule statement. Like the previous example, I'm going to match the statement simple, match on URI, match type exactly matches string. String to match is suppose login.aspx or login.php depending upon your login page. Apply the transformation if you want. I could apply lowercase, and I'm going to block these rules. So that means anytime someone is going to pass this rate limit, it's going to get blocked. Finally, it shows the priority of the rules in which it's going to be applied. Click on save, and it takes you back to the rule listing page. So we have 6 managed rules in our Web ACL, and we have 2 custom rules applied to our Web ACL. We still have lot of WCUs remaining. So the price you are going to pay for this WAF, it's independent of WCUs that you are going to consume until 1500 WCUs. So depending upon the need, you can add few more rules to this Web ACL. Now third tab is associated AWS resource. This allows you to apply your Web ACL to resources like CloudFront distribution or application load balancer, depending upon what kind of Web ACL you have created. Is it regional or is it global? Now the fourth tab is login and matrices, which shows all the monitoring available. It's good practice to enable login in your Web ACL. Click enable login, and you can select the Kinesis data firehose delivery stream. I have already created few, but if you have not created one, you need to create one so that it appears in the drop down. So I'm going to select a previously created Kinesis data firehose stream for this demo. It also allows you to redact certain fields. So what if a particular header I don't want to capture in the logins? So I'm going to select header redaction, and I can add the header name here, which I don't want to capture in logs. If I don't want to do that, I'll leave it as it is and click on enable logging. In my Firehose, I have enabled functionality to dump all the logs to S3 bucket. Now this also enables you to integrate the raw logs which are coming in real time with third-party log processing platforms like Sumo Logic or Splunk. Till now, what we saw was everything done manually. What if you want to automate your security? So there is a good solution available from AWS which you can deploy in your account, and it does all the things for you. So just Google AWS WAF security automation and it will take you to the solutions page. It has a solution listed which you can deploy with the available CloudFormation template. You can click launch in AWS console and it will start deploying the entire stack in your account. The beauty of this solution is that if any IP is triggering any rule, example rate limit, you can add that IP address to your own denied list. You can also view the entire details in the documentation. Each and every detail is mentioned here. If you want to customize as per your need, you can do it and then you can deploy it in your account. Many people actually use this automation solution to automate their entire security services. With very few resources, they are able to manage this automation and they can protect their web application very effectively. Now in the reporting section, we saw that there is an overview tab where we can see some of the sample requests and we can see how many requests are getting triggered, how many rules are getting triggered because of certain request. It also shows you what rule got triggered, what was the source IP addresses, what was the payload which caused this rule to get triggered, what sub rule or main rule which got triggered because of this request, what action was taken, and finally what time the request came. And then you can also access through the access logs which is captured by Kinesis Firehose. But what if you want to see more? So there is a custom dashboard available from AWS Solutions where if you just search for AWS WAF dashboard, it will take you to a blog post which talks about a custom WAF dashboard deployment. It also gives you a CloudFormation template which allows you to deploy the entire stack with one single click. It gives a very nice and granular explanation of what is happening in your account. It shows stats like executed AWS WAF rule, number of all requests, number of block requests, allowed versus block request, countries by number of requests, HTTP method, HTTP version, unique IP count, request count, the top 10 IP addresses, countries, user agents, host, and web ACLs. So overall, it looks like this, where you can see many granular data points, and this dashboard shows the real-time stats. So for troubleshooting purpose also, what if some certain requests are getting blocked and you want to see what happened to that request? You can go to Discover and it allows you to actually search a request from a particular IP, or if you're using CloudFront associate a unique request ID with each and every request, and hence if the user is getting blocked, it is assigned a unique ID and it's shown on the screen as well. You can search for the request ID in access logs manually, or in this dashboard you can search those requests and see why it was blocked. I will highly encourage you to actually read more about AWS WAF Dashboard Developer Guide. It is a guide from AWS team which talks about each and every aspect of AWS firewall in detail. It is also mentioning the details about logging of Web ACL traffic information. So it shows you the step-by-step process how to enable login and what all different fields are available in access logs. If you see the access logs, it's essentially a JSON block which captured the details of each and every individual request, which helps you to determine the details about the request. Let's talk about pricing. The pricing is very simple. You are charged $5 per month per Web ACL, and you are charged $1 per month for every rule. And third component is the number of requests. So every million requests will cost you 60 cents. So in my account, I have created 2 Web ACLs. So that is going to cost me $5 each for this Web ACL a month. And for this demo, we created some rules inside the Web ACL. So this Web ACL has got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rules inside that. So it's going to cost me 8 into $1, that is $8 a month for the rules. That means this Web ACL is going to cost me 8 plus 5, that is $13 every month. Apart from that, depending upon the usage, I'm going to charge. Example, if I'm generating 10 million requests for a month, it's going to charge me 60 cents into 10, that is $6 a month. So cost of running this WAF for an application which has 10 million requests a month is 13 plus 6, that is going to be $19 a month. Now the fun fact is that if you are a Shield Advanced customer, Web Application Firewall is bundled with it. That means if you are paying for Shield Advanced DDoS protection, Web Application Firewall is not going to cost you anything. AWS is also very developer friendly. So while creating the rules, if you did not like the UI which is available here, you can actually create the rules in JSON format. Or if you like APIs, you can create rules with the help of APIs. Let me show you how it's done. So this rule I have already created in the UI. Click on edit and it's going to show me the details of the rule. The first option you can see rule visual editor. But if I want to do it in JSON, I click on rule JSON editor and shows me the JSON format of the rule that I have created. I can create very complex set of rules using the JSON with multiple and, or, and not criteria. So as per the need, you can very easily create the complex rules using JSON. Or if you're a DevOps guy, I'm sure you will love the APIs. So with this, we will conclude today's session. I hope this was useful for you and you learned something new. And now you are in a position to create Web ACL rules, your own IP blocks, regex, and so many things with AWS WAF and protect your web application effectively. Thank you very much for your valuable time. Please do not forget to subscribe my channel.